Welcome to another episode of Between Two Lights. My name is Ryan McGough. Kidding, different episode, different time. And I am Ryan McGough, the bodybuilding businessman and entrepreneur. And if I've given you something of value, please like, subscribe, and share with somebody else that I might be able to help them and grow this network that we're building together. That's what we're doing, collaborating, contributing, and expanding and growing at the same time together through helping one another. It's my only job and purpose here for doing this. This is about telecommunications in general, contracting, government contracting. One thing I was looking over was the numbers, and I've recently been talking about kind of, taking that step. I don't want to say back, but taking the step into the actual direction that we want to go as a company, right? It is very important when we're creating a company, when we're building something, that we have this idea of where it's going to go first, right? And then also to write a business model that really sets out what we're doing, how we're doing it, how we want to get there, right? And so I think every company should solve a problem, right? It really should. It should, because it gets challenging. It gets hard, right? It's not easy to not know where the next check is coming from, to not know how you're going to pay the guys at times, to be going down to that last dollar, right? And, it's kind of, as I sit into year 3, as I get into, December and January, as we start the new year, I really think about how everything progressed and kind of what happened. And it just had me thinking a little bit and looking at some things specifically too, but thinking about when I started the company, I really had this idea and this dream to give people a better place to work, right? And I've still never lost track of that. And not only that, but since we build and bring technology, right, and we want to bring secured technology, secured wireless signal, we want to bring that to the world, right? We want to hire across the world. We want to be a contrarian and mission-driven company, right? And so in the beginning, without just taking a bunch of capital and just building this thing by putting the pieces together that are already established pieces, right? If that's the way that you start up, you raise a couple $1 million. We have, CEOs and project managers and construction managers and all of that. You just put those pieces right in there, and then they operate. Not to say that the chances are better if you do it that way. I'm not really sure of that. But for me, I always enjoy and I operate the best in learning something, doing it myself, reading about it, figuring it out, right? And then scaling it and then stepping back, right? Now that I've learned it, putting the pieces in place there after I've done it, right? So the hard thing is building a business model, but then having to take, just subcontracts of doing speaker wires in Walmart. Not to say that wasn't a cool job and a great opportunity for us. We did a great job on it. But some of these subcontracting jobs that we'll get is just they're so watered down, and you're literally just taking on the anxiety of what a lot of these other companies are put into by their customers or by not following through with what they're supposed to do. So not to say that just being a sub is not the way to go either. It is if that's your model, and your model is based off that, right? But our model is based off being worldwide and bringing the first private LTE plus encryption in the devices, and bring the first, secured private LTE network, right? Building mesh networks full of wireless transmitters, right? Putting antennas into anything and everything to keep a signal going to cover cities and then expand outward to rural areas. So if you take something like that and that is the dream and that is the goal. And yes, we need to get contracts. We need to have revenue coming in, right? But how long and for how much time are we willing to try to do these third tier subcontracts, just cable, just I know it is necessary to survive, and traction is extremely important, and momentum is extremely important, right? But at some point, I think we get lost in just doing these things that are right in front of our face and the easy things and just being a sub and a sub and a sub. Now, there is probably much to be said about building something, traction, momentum, like I just talked about, and then scaling up and building that out. But, we decided that we had a lot of money coming in from real estate and some other places that we would go after these prime contracts instead of, because our model is that, right? Our model is about managing people, right? Our model has rewards and benefits based in, we believe more in growth, right? We want to grow everybody, people that come to the company. We have a really high standard. So we have this, what I call an autonomous reward-based model, right? Which is one that lets somebody do something, figure it out, learn it, but teaches them more up front in training and goal setting. We have our people set goals. We have all of our managers also set curriculums that our guys need to follow and do. And when they do that, they get a raise, right? So it's a mutually beneficial process because our managers say, I want this, this, and this for my team. The team gets this, understands this, works with them on it. Hey, you're expected to do this. So everything is carefully defined. Everything is extremely intentional. But when we're just doing third tier work and it's me doing most of it, and we have young guys out there that contract work, some that show up, some that don't. You start to, you're just doing what you can with whatever resources you have. And you have to do that for a little while. You do. I think there's nothing, right? There's nothing that supplements hard work, learning the process, understanding what you're looking for, how it works. Luckily for telecom, for cellular, I've been in every position from tech all the way to testing tech, all the way to a construction manager, all the way to a project manager, to a technical project manager, all the way up to a director, starting a division that handled public safety radio and some cellular as well, getting into cellular. So I did that for a year and then organically started my company. So the nice thing is I'm actually a technical CEO, a technical founder, right? So I actually can do the work. And when we started the company, it was just me, didn't have sales, so I sold. And this is standard for most companies that start up. If you don't take capital and just jump into it, if you start by bootstrapping, you're going to do that. You're going to be the hat wearer. You're going to sell the network. You're going to build the network. You're going to manage the guys. You're going to be the construction guys. You're going to test the network. But, luckily, the nice thing about me is I've been in all those positions before. So I pulled all the cable with a team. I did all the testing. I did the connections. I did all the engineering. I programmed the systems and the softwares and the commissioning and configuring, and did all of the testing because I've done that on, I've commissioned cellular networks and all that. So I luckily got to be all the pieces. And I think some of the customers that we had were like, you sold it, you're going to be on site doing it. But I think at the end of the day, they actually learned to like that because they thought, wow, this guy is actually, doing every single thing. We have a full expert here in every single category. So any problems that arose, I was able to quickly solve them like that. But phone call coming in. Sorry, y'all. And I answered it from my watch too. But yeah, so that's an interesting thing and concept of how that's kind of worked out. So it is very good to be able to do that kind of stuff. But then it gets to the point where there's other things going on. There's other projects, other opportunities coming up. And is it the best use of my time then, right? And if we have this model to be a nationwide company that's solving wireless issues across, the world, and a mission-driven and contrarian wireless company, right? Is doing third-party testing and, third-tier subcontracting and cable pulling, and it does build revenue, it does build traction, but I think, doing 15 or so networks or being a part of them, that it's time to start going after the things that we really want to look for. And so when I looked at some of these things that we were bidding on in the past, it was 10,000 here, 20,000 here, and as we've switched to bidding on prime low voltage networks, honestly, we've probably, like, not to say we've won anything yet, but we've like quadrupled the numbers that we were putting out. 30,000 here, 25 here, 10 here, and honestly, putting way too many bids out before on these smaller numbers, but our close rate was much better. We usually would close mostly everything that we put out there. That was probably like a 90% close. But we've bid $1 million per year, camera and security, monitoring and maintenance contract. We just put out a 750,000, 20 building IP-based camera system and security system. So just right there, $2 million almost bid, in the last 6 months. And so when something like that hits, now we get to be the full contracted company that manages people, that puts people in places, that gets to use its business model that we created this company for, to what it actually was used for, and let it actually shine. Now we're seeing it work really well in the real estate world that we do. We do real estate investing, and we use this type of model for our internal employees, and we have them manage contractors that come to sites too. So we have cut costs hugely. Our renovations, usually I don't put a renovation or bid one that's over like $50,000 or $60,000, and that's a full down to the stud, because we know how to meet our CM with local labor and then bring in contractors just for specific things like electrical or anything that we need permits for or anything like that. So it's proven to be successful. And then our managers lift up people from the area and pick the best ones, and now they get projects in those areas. And that's how we've actually grown from one location to 3 locations, with having a team fully navigate through those. And so if we want to be a contracting company, more of a general contractor on the low voltage side, right, at some point we have to decide to go after the bigger stuff, to raise capital on a bigger level, those kind of things that help us support this idea and this model of what we're trying to get to. So it's just one thing that I think a lot of people get caught up in, is just doing side work or little things. And I think it really kills their drive and their motivation for what they had a dream for their company to be. And they never actually go out and challenge themselves to reach that level, right? And it just has to do with intentionalness and being intentional into what we're trying to do, building and creating the idea, and actually setting ourselves up on that path to get there, even if it means cutting out some of the other projects and fat and things that we get caught up in, that are just too stressful, too much, working with people who are just giving out contracts because they can't stand the customer anyway. And so, yeah, we've cut a lot of the fat, cut a lot of our, contractors and that we've been working for, and we're aiming more towards government contracts and bigger, general contracting firms and those kinds of things, which, like I've talked about in the past, do have a more stringent schedule, do have a more stringent contract, do bonding, some of these other things that a lot of smaller companies wouldn't have. But there is plenty of opportunities in the medium size to 100,000 square foot building that we can and should win, and are going after a lot of those until we can kind of scale up. But so today it's very much about, why do we get caught up in some of those places that we're not happy doing the work and they don't follow the vision and the dream. So they're just kind of wasted tasks, and they do build a pipeline, and you do get experience, and you need experience to be able to show that. But at some point we have to kind of continue to push ourselves instead of being complacent, doing the things that are comfortable, dealing with the customers and the contractors that give us the easy work, and actually go up and shoot for some of these bigger projects and bigger pipelines, that bigger projects that have bigger pipelines and maybe have less wins spread out, but have a few big wins, and really let us put our model to the test and hire great people and give them a great culture and a great job and a great opportunity at the same time, which is what we're about. And that allows us to be on the forefront of low voltage networks, so we can start implementing and researching and developing our private LTE and our private fully secure encrypted networks, and really get to the point where we want to be. And so that means letting the pros, building the team of the best people, and actually putting the people in places, giving them a great place, and putting them in the right place to actually start developing, researching, and this building out this network, which means there's going to be a lot smarter people than myself, and I'm going to need an excellent team to do that. And so that's kind of where we're at now, and why we're kind of pushing for this, because a lot of people might think, well, why would you step back, or why would you not kind of shoot for some of these little things and continue doing some of these little things? And that's because our model and where we want to actually be by 2026 is not just third tier subcontracting, right? So we're going to step back, if you will, to step forward and really step into what we need to do and where we need to be, because it's the perfect time to do it. We really believe that we can cut the cords, so we can build wireless networks, wireless infrastructure into the building. We can build private networks, and we can really start to take everything that had cords. I know I usually have Bluetooth, but everything that had cords, to move into something, into a new place, into a new time, where there's so many little transactions happening, so many wireless communications, so many different wireless networks going on at the same time, so much switching, so much of all of it. It's hard to even imagine how much networks, how many networks, how much information is going to be streamed wirelessly, how we could get a terabyte, into a device, and how many different layers within each building there's going to be: the automation layer, the robotics layer, the lighting layer. So all of these things are going to need this extremely dense wireless LTE connection at the antenna level to then operate off of it. But yeah, it's obvious of where it's going to go. We need better security for it as we pioneer this wireless future. And I think sometimes we get caught up in the ways that we live in so often, and just pulling miles and miles and miles of fiber, that we don't start to think maybe there's a different way. Maybe that we are capable of doing this wireless far better than 5G, on a 6G and beyond level, and start thinking, well, to do that, we're going to need a different type of infrastructure, one that has antennas everywhere. So we're going to start building buildings without wires inside of them, right? So like this whole situation is going to change, and it's going to take somebody really creative and on the forefront of it to be able to change this type of stuff. So thank you for listening. That's kind of my reason for jumping into and doing the things that you're capable of, that you believe that your company's capable of, instead of just doing and taking the low-hanging fruit that's right there. But it takes hedging, and it takes doing some other things in other industries, or having multiple streams of income that allow you to be able to do those types of things, because not many people can take a step back or take a maybe decrease in small incoming capital and go after $1 million plus bids, right? Which may happen one or two times a year, right? In the beginning. So that's where we're at, and luckily we have the real estate business that allows us to hedge this and allows us to take a step back and look at things for a little bit and see, are we on the path to get to where we want to go? And if not, right, how do we kind of get ourselves back on track to get there? This was our idea of how and where to go to get there, right? And in doing so, we've already put out probably $2.5-3 million worth of bids, in doing that, in being the prime, in going after full low voltage contracts. So I hope you got something out of it. If you did, please like, subscribe, tell somebody else about it. And if you know a business owner or anyone who is starting or thinking about starting their own business, I hope I've given you some valuable information. And I appreciate your time for checking in and listening today. So I will see you guys on the next one. Ryan McGough, the bodybuilding businessman and entrepreneur. And thank you for listening.